Big Sills. 35 days until the start of training camp. 35 days. Here we are, man. Hey, by the way, kudos to the guys for getting Jason Kelce. I listened to the interview. I'm going to comment on it here in a second. And some of the things he said about Sirianni, Cam Jurgens, I really enjoyed. Tone gave me a little bit of an update on what he said about Jurgens, too. And I'm like, not surprised. But I first want to tell everyone out there the good news. We now have a brand new official home of the National Football Show with Big Sills. The Hooters King of Prussia has officially signed on as a sponsor of the Big Sills National Football Show. How you doing? Okay. In the Philadelphia area, our friend who owns the Hooters, and by the way, you guys know my relationship with Hooters goes back 35 years. I mean, we have done business with Hooters, God, Tampa, Orlando, Miami, San Diego, Dallas, Atlanta, and now Philadelphia. So, hey, so some of you are going to maybe get an opportunity to actually see Big Sills leave the Dan Cave. You bet, baby. Title sponsor. Not a title sponsor, but an official home for us, for all of us to get together and kind of crack a couple open and sit around and talk some sports. So we're looking forward to our relationship with the Hooters guys in the Philadelphia area. Thank you very much to Phil and everyone that made it happen. Joe Krause and all that. So how you doing, man? Brand new sponsor to the program, starting real soon. Thank you very much. As I said, 35 days to the start of training camp. I did listen to the Jason Kelce interview. You know, I came away with one thing that Jason said about the head football coach, Nicks Sirianni. Nicks Sirianni is a guy who is a lot like Jimmy Johnson, except in the personnel side. But the one characteristic that they have, they don't get in the way. They get in the way when they have to get in the way. That was the true strength of Jimmy. Jimmy would go into every single meeting. O-line, D-line, DBs, linebackers, wide receivers, running back. But he would sit back and observe. And then he would basically give his opinion to his assistant coaches on what he's overseeing. So you know where Nick is improving as a coach? Is that the players see he's not getting in the way. That's a great attribute that a lot of coaches can't do. Look at the owner of the Cowboys. The owner of the Cowboys has to be involved. Nick's an observer, according to Kelce, and I take his opinion more than anyone else that covers the team. You know, he watches him. He goes, hey, I heard something else that I thought was critical. I think you guys should all go back and listen to that interview, by the way. JAKIB Sports, go back, man. It's a great one. He said that, you know, I get more out of his team meetings than I've ever gotten out of any coach that I've ever played for in my career. That's a pretty big statement because most of those meetings, those team meetings, are kind of just get together. Then you break off into your individual coaches. Then you go work out. Then you practice. And those team meetings are usually bullshit. They usually mean nothing. Okay? They usually mean nothing. But he says they're productive. That's not a shocker. Pretty much everything in that building is productive. From the personnel department to the culture of the team, everything that they do is productive and with a sense of urgency. And I would also say with a championship mentality. It's a really great organization, and it's well done. You know, when I first got the ability to start talking about the Eagles, I didn't really know what kind of organization it was because I had heard all kinds of things about Howie and how he gets in the way and such. And I would say that he's a different general manager the second go around here. But they're doing a great job at maintaining. Dude, the most important thing is the energy in the building, that they keep going. Okay? They really do keep an energy going in that building. So I would say this about Sirianni. Remember I said that he's kind of just like a librarian? I think there's more of a key role in that, because when you hear Kelce talking about him and the respect that he has, that's more than just a librarian or a guy who's a CPA. Okay? There's it's kind of the guy who kind of keeps everything together. He's kind of, would we all say this about Sirianni? He really doesn't have any influence at all in any way whatsoever with the play calling, defense or offense, but he's kind of the glue to the whole thing. Does that make sense? He's kind of, that's my takeaway on how Jason Kelce sees him. He's kind of the glue that keeps it kind of all together. That's a talent. That's a talent. Okay? That's a talent. CEO mentality? Yeah, because the CEO is not going to go to department heads and sit around and listen to every department head. What he's going to do is observe, and then he's going to go to situations that he thinks. So would we say this, Yale, that he's more of kind of like a problem solver? That where there's areas that need to be addressed, he addresses it. And how about this? Sirianni, and this was, again, my takeaway from listening to Jason Kelce today with the guys on Sports Take talking, was that he's not going to get involved if things are going well with something. He's going to leave it alone. But if things need to be addressed, that's, like I said, he's kind of like a problem solver. All right. Remember, they had an issue with the DTs. Well, they all figured it out. Howie, Jonathan Gannon, and Nick, they all figured it out. Put it all together. Hey, we need some help. Let's see if we can go on the open market and find somebody. They figured it out. Right? How do we replace the coordinators? Well, we kind of figured it out. Stay in-house on one side. Because, quite frankly, get this. The reason you stay in-house on the right side of the ball, which is the offense, is because the quarterback doesn't need a lot of coaching. Does this make sense? There's really not a lot of coaching that's going to be needed on the offensive side of the ball. So why not keep that in-house? Whereas on the defense, why don't we get a consultant in the room too, along with Sean Desai? Let's get a consultant like Matt Patricia, just to make sure we're all on the same page. It's not a diss on Sean Desai. It's just more help on that side of the ball. Is that fair? That's Sirianni's role. So I think it's a more demanding role. Look at what Sean McVay does with the Rams. You think Sean McVay has anything to do with Raheem Morris and that defense in Los Angeles? Or some of the offensive, or like, how much do you think Andy Reid really sits down with Steve Spagnuolo in Kansas City and goes over formations and shit like that when it comes to taking on it? I'm not saying Andy's not involved in it, but do you think he really sits down and goes, hey, I think we should run this defense on this particular play? I don't think Andy does that. Whereas Nick listens. And I think Nick is I would say Nick is probably more, is this fair? Nick is probably more involved in the offense and defense than what Andy Reid is involved with Kansas City's offense and defense. Andy's knee deep in the offense in Kansas City, right? Okay? I don't really think he's that knee deep when it comes to Kansas City's defense. You got a great coordinator on that side of the ball. Tony says, Dan, the offense has a new senior guy installed as well as Patricia. Marcus Brady is in the new offensive role. Okay, more thought process in the room there too. Okay, probably fair enough. And Andy's the play caller. That's right too, yeah. So he's got to be more focused on that offensive side of the ball. Absolutely. I saw the ESPYs also. And by the way, I suggest you go back. We'll talk a little more. Oh, wait. Let me hit on this thing here, too, that he said. I was very encouraged to have Tone tell me that Jason Kelce said that Cam Jurgens is going to be, he thinks Kelce better than him. Boy, I'll tell you something. That is quite a compliment. That's quite a compliment. I mean, first ballot Hall of Famer saying that there's a kid that's behind me that's going to be better than me. I don't think a guy like Jason Kelce throws those kind of kudos around. He doesn't come off like that kind of dude to me. Oh, this guy's phenomenal. And then he's really not. I don't think you got dudes in that building like that. I really don't. I know Kelce was part of the whole evaluation that brought him into Philadelphia, but that is quite a statement. To hear a future Hall of Famer say, there's a kid on our team better than me. Now, I don't know if that translates into that kid winning the right guard position, because he's talking about him replacing him at center. So, Tone, remember, just because he's going to be a great center, according to Jason, that doesn't mean he'll be a good guard. It's two different skill sets, but the potential's there. And when I hear a guy, hey, if a coach told me that a guy is going to be better than this guy or this guy, I don't believe a word he says because it's coach talk. But when a player says it, especially a player of that stature, I believe it. I completely believe that Jason Kelce thinks that guy is going to be better. Kelce was like, I want Cam to take my job as a vet. You have two options. You can either support the future or become a figment of the past. It's a tremendous way of looking at being, but you know what, Tone? I want to read that again to you, and I want to tell you why he can say this. Kelce made these comments here. As a vet, you have two options. You can either support the future or become a figment of the past. Well, there's a reason that you could talk like that, because you've built a tremendous legacy. Players who don't have legacies like that can't talk like that. Okay? He's got a legacy that he's completely comfortable. Tone, I think it's wonderful that you've paraphrased it that way, because if that was your takeaway, that's what he meant. Okay? But his legacy, he's very proud of it and what he's accomplished, and he should be. Okay? That's how guys who have excelled talk. Hey, man, I can't wait to see the future, because you know why? Jason Kelce's part of Eagle history now. There's very few players in that organization's history, or in any football organization's history. You know, Rob and the guys talk about some of the legendary players that have played at particular organizations, and you name some of the guys that come to your mind when you talk Eagles or Giants or Cowboys or 49ers or Patriots or what have you. And those guys are the history of those organizations that come to your mind. Those are guys that can talk like that. Lawrence Taylor with the Giants, or Sayers and Butkus, Peyton with the Bears, and people like that, man. If you ever talk to any of those guys, they're so comfortable with who they are. And they want the future to be great. Yeah, he has. I'll tell you this about Kelce. Kelce's character carried him a long way in his work ethic. Okay? And he made himself into a superstar player. Okay? He said winning the Super Bowl doesn't compare to losing it. Nothing makes you hungrier than losing a Super Bowl. Again, it's a championship mentality. Here's something else to think about as well. When you're talking about guys in your franchise's history, like Jason Kelce, Jason Peters, people that have really made an impactful time when they were a Philadelphia Eagle or part of your favorite team. Always remember when you are listening to guys, like here, I've always made this comment about Mariano Rivera. Man, We can't sit around and talk about Mariano Rivera's greatest accomplishments. We talk about his failures because you know why? There were so few of them. When you talk about the thing you think about sometimes the most with Mariano Rivera is not that he was the most dominant closer in the history of baseball, but his failure in the Diamondback series. There were so few failures. The comeback of the Red Sox. Those guys remember those failures more than they. How many times have you heard Tom Brady talk about his loss to Nick Foles and his 2 losses to Eli? He talks more about those losses than his Super Bowl wins. Those things will always be on your mind. Dude, again, in a small microcosm of my life, man, I will never get over in my entire life losing a football game to Penn State, the national championship, where people were telling me, if you guys win this game, you would have been on the greatest football team in the history of college football. Can you imagine that? And like Brady playing against the Eagles. Dude, I played my greatest game. I led my team in tackles. I started the game out with a sack, 15-yard sack. They only had 6 first downs. We lost. It eats at me all the time. Eats at me all the time. So close to perfection. Dude, I got rings. But that game will always stick out as something that, to me, man, what could have been. They call us the greatest team ever to win a national title. That's not a good compliment. Some look at it as that's not a good compliment. Jerome and I walking off the field together, he looked at me and he goes, God dang it. Can you believe it? I go, no. We played our best game together that game. We walk off the field, man. We hugged each other. And we never forgot that game. Never forgot that game. So Kelce's Super Bowl loss, absolutely, man. That emotion will always be more than the one can you imagine this? Sadness makes you think longer than happiness. Think of that. It's true, isn't it? Bad moments in your life make you think longer than the great moments. We try to channel out the bad moments. Try to channel out the bad moments. You can't. They stick around forever, and they last longer than the good moments. Shit, man, we played in so many great games, had so many great sports moments in my life. Dude, the ones that I still remember are the failures. No doubt, man. He's a pleasure to listen to. No wonder his podcast kicks ass. He and his brother, man, in my opinion, dude, WIP or that other thing they got there in Philly, or even us, I don't know. We should, somebody's going to give them a talk show. They should do a daily talk show when they're all done. That thing would be number one. I don't know if you could pay them, especially with today's non-radio money, but I could. Hey, would you listen? Guys, in Philadelphia, people in Philly, Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce had a radio show for 2 hours on WIP. Would you listen every day? No matter what the season was? I know I would. Because it'd be entertaining. I'd love that, man. Okay? I would totally listen to that. Yale goes, Kelce might want to go into the front office. Jason, you're talking. Probably so. Probably. Why sell them? Why sell that? Make them, okay. They can make more with their own show. Probably that's probably what's going to go on with their podcast. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So the ESPYs have come out. The nominations. A couple Philly guys. The best NFL player. Boza, Hurts, Justin Jefferson, Patrick Mahomes. NBA, Butler, Embiid, Joker, Jason Tatum. Embiid's not winning that one. That will go to Joker at the ESPYs. But it might not, because you know why? I doubt the Joker comes back for the ESPYs. He'll probably stay overseas. He probably will not come back. So they may give that award to Embiid. We're going to have a little fun with that. The Big Sills Awards. We're gonna have a little fun. It's not going to be long, but we're going to have a little fun with that. So we'll do this. All right. Monster says he misses Angelo in WIP. Of course you do. He's the most talented guy in radio history in Philadelphia. Of course you do. There's nothing on that station now. Take a look at W.A. Fayan's new lineup. That's nothing listenable. It's about the fan. Dude, but then again, Monster, don't worry about it. You know why? WIP's hosts aren't really, they're pawns. You guys are the ones that make it happen. The fan base in Philadelphia moves the needle on that station. It's not the host. Dude, you could put anybody in there. You could put anybody in there. Won't matter. All right.